Hello, and welcome to Strive Stories, a production where you'll get a chance to meet real Strive participants, get a glimpse of what appeals to them about our programs, and what types of paths their lives have taken since. I'm your host, Nick Winchell, one of the owners of Strive, international traveler, and all-around athlete who occasionally tries his hand at running. Hi everyone, Nick here from Strive Trips, bringing you the first episode of Strive Stories. I'm very excited to welcome Malcolm Gerba today. He was a Strive Peru participant in 2013, went on our Spanish immersion program, our first one actually. So he was a guinea pig for that program. And I've kind of been following and keeping in touch with Malcolm since then. So he's lived quite the interesting life for someone his age. So wanted to check in with him, talk about his Strive experience, and kind of just go over what he's been up to since then. So here's Malcolm. Malcolm is currently a junior at Tulane, I believe. Is that correct, Malcolm?
Yeah.
So he'll be graduating in a year. Right now he's living in Colombia, doing a year abroad studying. So Malcolm, when you first came on Strive, or when you were first let's go way back to the beginning, you're sitting in your house, you're tip-tapping away at your computer keyboard, looking for programs. Obviously, there's a ton of great programs out there. You find Strive, and so kind of what made you choose Strive over the other things that you'd been looking at?
Definitely. That's a great question. I'd say that for me, it was kind of when I just really started becoming serious about running. And I wanted to be able to do something that was going to really elevate my performance, really prepare me for the junior, which is a crucial year if you're thinking about running in college. But that was also going to propel me in different ways. It was going to push me linguistically. It was going to allow me to participate in a service project. So those couple of things really stood out to me and set Strive apart from other programs like it, for sure.
Were you looking at other programs? Did you consider other ones?
I honestly can't remember the other ones that were in the running. I think that when I really read up on Strive and looked at the focus on training itself, the area in Peru was situated in, some of the testimonials, I was sold. So it was one of those things where I wasn't necessarily between Strive and something else. It was really just Strive.
Cool. And was that so I know that you and your parents have done a lot of stuff. Like was Strive kind of your first, was it your first experience abroad, or was it your first experience abroad solo? Or kind of had you done anything like this before that?
The summer before Strive, I was really fortunate in that I went to Malaga, Spain. So that was my first experience ever abroad alone. But I'd say that experience was much more just kind of getting my feet under me in a different country. It was in Spain, and there was I was also in a homestay for a couple weeks, so it was definitely a good precursor to Strive. But I don't necessarily felt that there was definitely something lacking in that experience, right? So it felt very selfish. It felt much more about me just trying to start learning Spanish, kind of seeing a different part of the world. I was totally a tourist, going to all the different museums, and there's nothing wrong with that. It just definitely, I feel like it wasn't a very fulfilling summer. And it kind of left me wanting something more out of a summer experience.
And you were just doing language there was the main purpose?
Yeah, mainly language classes. Just starting out with Spanish that summer.
Cool. And so you're just a young buck. What were you, 14 years old when you
I was 15. 15. Yeah.
Wow. Cool. So when you'd been abroad, you'd done a little bit of stuff, you'd been already by yourself. Like, was there anything when you thought about Strive, when you thought about going to Peru and doing this program, was there anything either before or during the program that you were kind of nervous about or worried about?
I don't know. I think that being just the way that the program was framed, I definitely was comfortable coming in. Obviously you're going to be a little anxious going into any new experience, especially one in a different country, but knowing that there was going to be a support network was really comforting. That wasn't really there the summer before for me. So I knew that was going to be there were going to be great instructors there waiting for me to help out all of the different participants, and two, that there were going to be people my age or a little older. That was something I definitely was looking forward to as well. Was it were interactions with fellow runners, with people my age from around the country. So that was something that I think really helped out and gave me peace of mind coming in.
Cool. So let's talk a little bit about, so you had a pretty big group, if I remember right. I think there's like 15 or 16 of you guys.
Yeah, definitely.
And kind of how did that go? Do you feel like you had a lot in common with the other people, or did you have a good time with them, or take a while to warm up to them, or kind of talk about that experience?
I had a great time with everyone on the program pretty much right off the bat. Because I did the immersion program, I was with two other participants that first week. So that was nice. It was just nice to kind of get to know a couple other people at first, ease into the process, got to know a couple of the interns that were there during that really well. So I think that was honestly a great advantage, because coming in to that first week with the big group, I already felt pretty comfortable. I had people I knew and had conversed with, people I had trained with. So that was great. And then as far as just feeling comfortable in the bigger group, that was a piece of cake. I feel like I did have a lot in common with the other participants, more so in a running sense than anything. I think that, but in other senses too. I mean, everyone I think that participates in Strive has a fairly similar, at least, an interest in service, an interest in training, and an interest in the language to some extent. So that always brings a group closer together. But no, it was great. Always someone there to talk to. My roommates, the people that I lived with, were awesome. So no, it definitely made the experience more fun and enriching.
Cool. And you were with Ryan. I mean, I'm old and it's been many years, but it was Noah and Evan were your roommates. Is that right?
Noah and Evan were my roommates.
And do you keep in touch with them at all?
A little. I was definitely on Facebook. I keep tabs on them. It's nice to see how everyone's doing. Friends with all of the people who are in my group. So very cool experience for sure.
Nice. And you kind of were our first group of Spanish kids for that immersion week, and you touched on that a little bit. But you think that was definitely worth the extra week to do.
Yes, 100%. I don't think ever since that experience definitely was one of the most rigorous, probably the most crucial Spanish experiences that I've had, just because even though it only was a week long, it was just me and my instructor. And we'd get in the morning, just drill grammar. And that's not that fun, but it's necessary. It's super necessary. And it's one thing when you're in a class in high school and there are maybe 30 other people, right? And you learn, okay, this is the present, this is the past, the future. And you maybe get a little bit of time interaction with with your teacher. But what I loved about the immersion program is just, there was no escape. There was no zoning out. There was no, oh, I don't want to do this right now. I'll figure it out later tonight. It was pure, I don't want to scare anyone off, but you were definitely getting your fill of Spanish during the morning, grammatically. And then you go home for lunch, and in the afternoon, those were probably some of my favorite times of the week, because you and your teacher go on a walk, or at least that was my case. So we'd go walk around the area of Ollantaytambo. We'd go into the mountains. We'd go look at some of the farms. And she would ask me, what do you see? What do you see over there? What's that? And it was tough because, you're armed with, I didn't have much vocabulary under my belt, but it really pushed me. And I learned a lot about her, and overall, just an amazing experience. So it's really well balanced. You get tired out in the morning, but you come right back in the afternoon and you have a really enriching cultural experience. So I wouldn't trade that for anything.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, that's what we tell the teachers. We're like, make sure they don't have too much fun, because we have, a level of fun that we allow our students to have on our trips. Yeah. And then we just make sure that we don't exceed that. That's why we put the grammar in there.
Totally.
All right. So you're on the trip for 4 weeks total. Do you have a particular moment or memory, kind of your favorite moment, or or a funny moment, or something that you want to share with everybody?
It's tough, because I'd say that there were moments within every realm of Strive that definitely stuck out to me. Training wise, and just overall, one of the moments that's never left my mind has been the long run. Is it Tecalca?
Yeah, Takalka's
I
right.
forget.
Yeah.
Yeah, to Calca. So that was the longest run I've ever done. I think to this day, it was
Right.
like
Yeah.
something just under 13 miles, maybe.
Yeah.
So that was overall just really, I was excited for that. I was a little nervous. I didn't know if I could make it. And just the scenery on that run alone, the contentment of being able to accomplish that, and with other people too. It's a very, for me, it was a very exciting. It was exciting to accomplish that task with other people, with my peers, with some of the interns. We were all super excited that we had survived that run and that we felt good. Um, and just everything we saw along the way. I mean, you see the terrain change before you. It was a beautiful sunny day. So that was one of the moments that really stuck out from a running perspective of the whole entire trip. Um, as far as teaching, there were a lot of moments for me. That was really my first. That was my first experience teaching English in a classroom. The amount of autonomy we were given. I mean, there were 3 volunteers to a class, and we were pretty much on our own. So having to come up with those lesson plans, figuring out how do you keep a class of kindergartners engaged, that's tough. That's tough for anyone. So it was really a huge growth experience. And I know some of the moments in the classroom were really tough, but left me super satisfied and really excited to do more of that in the future, which I have continued with. And then overall, just moments, you know, after dinner, playing cards, sharing stories. I mean, those are always experiences that you're not going to forget. So
Sure.
overall, a ton of memories.
Cool. Yeah. Kindergartners are both my favorite and my least favorite students to
Yeah,
work with.
exactly.
I always tell people I love kindergartners for about 45 minutes and then I'm done.
Yeah, the last 15 minutes, you're ready to go for sure.
That's true. They are tough. So you've done a ton of stuff, kind of since you've been done with Strive. You've been to a bunch of different countries, you've been in a bunch of different programs. So let's kind of touch on that. And after Strive, you were going to be a junior going back to high school.
Yeah.
You come back that summer and you head to
Costa Rica.
Costa Rica. And what are you doing in Costa Rica and why are you going to Costa Rica?
Yeah, so definitely I've been lucky in that my parents have always pushed me to leave the country for the summers. So I've been really privileged in that regard. And the main theme of that has been, how do I become fluent in a language? How do I learn about different cultures in different parts of the world? And I've always had that love of the Spanish language. That I've wanted to pursue that. So the next step was to go to a Spanish-speaking country and to live there for a while. We chose Costa Rica, or I chose Costa Rica more because we had a connection there. We had stayed in this nature lodge. There was also a coffee plantation and restaurant. And we reached out to the owners and we ended up setting up a kind of like a pseudo program where I lived with a family that worked at the restaurant and plantation for about 5 weeks. One of the most incredible summers I've had a chance to be a part of. Amazing family, really opened their home to me. I learned a lot about them. I learned a lot about just the hard work that went into every day. We'd get up at like 4:30, go right to work. I'd come home around 2:30, just exhausted, sweating, every ounce of water out of my body. Work varied. Sometimes I'd be planting coffee seedlings. Sometimes I'd be working at the restaurant if there were guests and serving and cleaning. So it was a really humbling experience, and I grew linguistically. I definitely felt like I was able to hold more of a conversation. I don't know if I grew as far as like my control or handle on grammar, but I definitely felt like I could have more of a connection after that experience. I got pretty sick, so I had 2 of the weeks I was just down for the count, but still, like, some of the best memories. And it was the World Cup summer, so Costa Rica ended up surprising the world and left their group, went into the semifinals, I believe, and lost in penalties to the Netherlands. So it was a crazy summer in that, like, everyone, the streets were full, even our small town. And it was a great environment to be a part of.
Yeah. And actually it's fine. I mean, being sick is a essential part of the being a Brad experience, right? Yeah. It sucks. And it's kind of in the moment, it's like the worst thing ever, but I promise you that everyone who's been sick is always going to remember that
Well, yeah,
moment of like, oh my
and I
gosh, why did I eat that, or whatever, whatever it is.
no, totally, totally. And for me, I wouldn't have had, hours of conversation with my host mother had I not been sick, or I wouldn't have played as much with my host brother. There are things that you gain out of that too. So, I guess I wouldn't trade being sick those couple weeks.
Yeah, it's interesting for sure. So you go to Costa Rica, you come back, you're senior now, getting ready to become a real adult, and you decide to become a babysitter, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I was looking for I guess more of a cost-effective way for me to still travel, um, in a different way somewhere else. And I looked into becoming an au pair. So I found this great website called Au Pair World. I made a profile, and seriously, I think it was within the day I had like 4 messages. It's a really cool website. I recommend it to anyone who wants to travel. It could be anywhere. You don't necessarily need to speak the language. You could want to go to Australia, somewhere in Asia. And what's great is the families do the work for you, because they're the ones that are really looking for someone who can speak English or whatever language with their children that they're looking to immerse them in. So a family reached out to me. It was their first time with an au pair, and I just loved the message they sent. We Skyped shortly thereafter, and we set it up. So that was in the north of Spain, Laredo in Cantabria, and it was the longest summer I had spent abroad. It was 10 weeks, and another great experience.
And so you're what age was it, one kid, two kids, three kids?
2 kids. So 2 boys, 4 and 7. I would usually the day would go, I'd wake up whenever they did. The parents had already gone off to work and make breakfast. We'd hang out, maybe do an hour or two of English lessons, then head over to the beach or head over to the park, and then come back. And their parents would come home for dinner. So it was usually a pretty quick day. Great kids, a lot of energy, so they tired me out. But it was a great experience. And for me, I'm an only kid, so it was nice to have that kind of younger sibling interaction for the summer.
Yeah, and so like outside of kind of the teaching you've done with Strive, had you ever worked with kids before, or were you just kind of like thrown into the fire? It's like, oh my gosh, I take care of them for you.
Yeah, I was thrown into the fire a little bit, which was good. And I had, during the school year, I had worked in a similar program to what we did with Strive at the school. So I'd go over to a local elementary school, bilingual school, and we'd read to them in English and Spanish and do a little bit of language instruction. So that definitely helped me. But as far as, cleaning up after the kids, helping them use the restroom, all those things were new.
Yeah.
So the first couple of weeks were wild, but I settled in well, and I still keep in touch with that family. We're super close.
Very cool. So you'll probably go visit them someday.
I hope so. Yeah, it's a beautiful part of Spain.
All right. So then you come back. You decide to leave the Windy City and go to Louisiana. It's a little bit of a different climate change for you there.
Definitely.
You're at Tulane. Still kind of have that travel bug, and you can't seem to get rid of that, right?
Yeah.
So you join international business. What I can't remember exactly. International business, is that it?
Yeah. So that was part of the reason I ended up deciding on Tulane. I was admitted to this relatively small program, 18 person per year program. It's called the Altman Program of International Studies, and one of the couple key factors why that program really stood out to me. One, you end up graduating 2 degrees, so a business degree and a liberal arts degree. And coming in, I really didn't know what I wanted to do with myself. So just the idea of having having just a multidisciplinary background was really appealing. You have to focus on a language, which was key also. So you take language classes very rigorously your first 2 years, and then you have a full year abroad your junior year. So the idea of being able to spend an entire year abroad and having, the program aid you and really mentor you in how to do that effectively and still graduate on time was crucial. And I like the idea of always having an international studies element to my education. So every semester you're enrolled in a class just with your peers in the cohort that focuses on international development, globalization, in some form or fashion. So those kind of aspects really stood out to me. And another key thing is that there's a second year freshman summer abroad experience. So the program took us to Vietnam the summer after my freshman year, and we took a couple classes there, and it was just astounding to be able to see part of the world that I never really imagined that my language would take me to. So that was awesome.
Yeah. So I feel like, what, are you 20 or 21 now?
21, just turned 21 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Oh, happy birthday, man.
Thanks.
So yeah, guys, Malcolm's 21. He's been to about as many countries as I have. So you did the Vietnam China thing as part of the school program, and now we're up to kind of present day, and so obviously you chose Spanish as your language. And you're in Colombia now. And so what are you doing in Colombia?
Yeah. So, just an exchange student here. I've been having an amazing experience. First semester, obviously a little antsy to get started. All my classes were in Spanish, so I was keen to see how that would turn out. It ended up being fine. I think that the 2 years at Tulane really reinforcing my language helped a ton. I could understand everything, which was crucial, and I'm not getting the grammatical backbone that I might need. So I'm thinking about brushing up a little on that. But as far as speaking and understanding, I'm definitely at the most fluent I've been, for sure. And I also was teaching, so I helped teach an English class at a different university. So I volunteered at a university called Externado, which was like 10-minute walk from where I'm studying right now. And 2 days a week, we would do different English immersion lessons for a community in the north of Bogota. Completely free, a really cool experience because you had students that were 14, you had students that were 50. And it was cool to, put the same skills to use that I'd started to learn with Strive, and really push them to the next level, learning a lot from the professors that were volunteering as well. So I was kind of like a TA in those classes, and I feel a lot more comfortable now setting up lesson plans, interacting with students. So I think more than anything, I really got kind of the teaching bug through that program. So that was just as meaningful, if not more, than some of the classes I've taken here.
All right. So you just said the teaching bug. So let's talk future. So, I mean, first of all, I'd like to go back in the past a little bit. And like the first time I met Malcolm, he comes out with his, if you can look at the video right now, you can see his oh, he just got out of bed hair. It's perfectly coiffed up there. So that's been Malcolm's look for about the last 7 years. But so, you kind of always have been a planner. You've kind of always had big ideas. So are you thinking about teaching? You got a year left? What do you see yourself in the US? Do you see yourself abroad? Try to do a little, little forecasting.
It's a great question. Yeah. The forecasting's tough. I'd say that, right now, my immediate plans, I was lucky enough to secure an internship this summer in San Francisco. So I'll be heading back to the States and full steam ahead, and working in an office environment, which I'm excited about, in a new city, which will be great. And we'll see. I mean, it's tough because I definitely feel the, not necessarily a pressure, but a desire to come back home and have that first job out of college and really work hard during doing that. On the other end, I've loved everything regarding teaching that I've done. So I think that just figuring out a way to mesh both of those worlds together, or tackle one and then tackle the other, is definitely in the works for me, but I'm still pretty undecided. It's tough,
Yeah, it is tough.
What's exciting is it's exciting at the same time. And I've always been a pretty curious person, so it's kind of tough for me to pin down exactly what I want to do. But it's not a bad place to be.
It's true. And there's no hurry, Malcolm. Trust me. There's plenty of time. There's plenty of time to work. Figure it out one day at a time. All right. Well, thanks, Malcolm. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us. And this, everybody, and Malcolm, he's a pretty typical Strive participant with, a little bit more travel than some of them, perhaps. But yeah, so thanks for taking the time, Malcolm, and we'll talk to you soon.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And anyone that has any questions about Strive, feel free to reach out.
Thanks for listening to Strive Stories with your host, Nick Winchell. If you like our show and want to know more about what we do and who we are, please check out our website or blog at www.strivetrips.org. Join us next time when we check in with another former Strive participant.